Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Frost Bites with Kelly Frost. I am, of course, Kelly Frost, and we had our co-host today, Pat Schober, and our guest today was Dakota Horbaczek. It was an incredible episode today, very touching, all about music. However, this one was also had a little bit of a side talk about mental health, which is so crucial today. And I tell you what, when we put this one out, we're going to have a lot of information in the description, so please take a look at that. We're going to be working with Dakota. He doesn't quite know that yet, but we're going to be. We're going to do some fun things with him and be giving back to the community and help him in any way that we can. Just a quick PSA, if anybody out there is suffering with any kind of mental health, if you need any kind of help, there's always 988. But please, if you are looking to get any kind of assistance, please look out to your family, your friends, or anyone else that you feel that can help you. And if you need anything else, please just talk. Talk to anybody that you can. There's always someone out there that is going to care about you, that loves you. So please take a look at this episode. We hope you enjoy it. Leave us some comments. Please enjoy Dakota. Thanks for watching another episode of Frostbites, and we are jumping right in with Dakota, and then we also have Pat Schober today with us with our co-host. And Pat, we wanted to do a musical one today, and we have someone else coming later on, but our guest today I just met for the first time, and it is because of you, so thanks for bringing him aboard. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Dakota?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dakota is the owner of DI Records out here in Pittsburgh. He works with some really cool bands from around the world and is really big in rock, metal, electronic. I know you kind of run the gamut in terms of music genres, but I'm really excited to have you on the mic today.
I'm happy to be here, honestly. I took a look at some of Kelly's previous stuff, and it's awesome.
Thank you.
And I already know you're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
And yeah, you're right. I work with a lot of different variations of rock and metal would be the best way to say it, because not one of them is quite like the other. One has more electronic elements, one's like old school, so it's just different levels. Same with the bands too. Like there's some that are just starting out, and then there's some who are veterans of scenes, and some who just focus on local.
Love that.
So it's just,
how did you dive into this? Where did this all come from?
Honestly, beforehand, before I got into the whole independent part, I was working as street team for a couple of major labels. Another Century, Sumerian Records, and Artery Recordings. They closed down, so that's why I was trying to remember who it was. So I would work a street team promoting bands and that, trying to get more people to check out the bands on their rosters. And then one of the bands what was one of my favorites at the time was coming to Pittsburgh. So I went to Pittsburgh, the show down there, and I was like, why isn't there more people? I know how good these bands are. I know I hustled as much as I could. Where is everyone? And I looked more into it, and at the time, that promoter was forcing the bands to sell tickets and not get anything from it other than getting to be on the show. So turns out one of those bands is now on my roster.
Nice.
That was on that show. So they were my origin point in there.
Nice.
So I'm like, maybe I should help these bands. I'm pretty decent at this. So I'm like, I started as a little Facebook page, PA local bands. And
What year was that?
that was 2017.
Okay.
It's like a lifetime ago now.
Right?
Yeah, before pandemic.
Another lifetime.
Yeah. It was like another lifetime before the pandemic. And I just got that started and just kept building my reputation, bands, knowledge. Like, I just dived into absolutely everything that I could get my hands on. I didn't stop learning at any point.
Love that.
Because there's different ways to go about things. You could go to college, university, and go the normal track, learn how normal things function.
Why does anyone want to be normal?
What's that?
Right, exactly.
And then there's the other way where you fight for every scrap of information and you have to develop on your own. You don't have anyone to guide you. You'll find people along the way that you can work with and guide you in different areas. And eventually you just get to the point where you know enough where you can head out on your own doing things. So that's what I was doing the entire time. Just building up all this information, contacts, friends, and I set myself goals after a point. I was like, all right, people have asked enough about it. If I do this, this, and this, I'll make a record label. And I was like, okay, I'll probably achieve this in like 5 years. 2 years later, I'm starting the record label because I just blew past all of my goals, like massively. Because I was like, 2,000 likes on Facebook, so many contacts. I was like 500 contacts. I ended up getting a couple thousand. Facebook likes went up to like 5,000 at the time. So I was just blowing past every goal I had set myself.
What do you attribute that to? Because I know you had some pretty cool like post series that you were running in different.
Different promotions is definitely a big part of it. Like I revamped one of them recently. Instead of like trying to focus on all this extra stuff for them, I'm just going to post a band of the day.
And a lot of them are unsigned, right?
Yeah,
like unsigned
that's
bands.
the point that I'm trying to make is unsigned band of the day.
Yeah, I was seeing some of your posts, and there's a lot on there that you're posting, just really promoting the unsigned bands.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and because we have a good audience, and there's always people looking for new bands. So just posting unsigned bands today, you might find your new band that way. Music that can help you when you need it most.
Did he just say he's a good audience? Have you seen his audience? It's a little bit better than good.
Yeah, it's real big.
All right, it's okay.
He's kind of humble, huh?
One of the things I think is interesting about DI Records is in the music space, there are so many people who are just trying to get a cut. And you have so many people who take predatory approaches when they work with bands. You have venues that are taking money from bands, right, and then forcing them to hustle. And there are a lot of record labels who kind of do the same thing. When they set up these agreements that are putting all of the risk on the bands, and it really sucks to see because they're the ones who are ultimately making the music, building the scene. What do you think makes DI Records stand out, and how do you work to kind of set yourselves apart in an industry where there can be a lot of distrust?
We're more of a volunteer base, and since the staff is basically volunteer, we make it so that our contracts are the bands keep the rights to their music. We don't obtain rights. We don't force them to stay with us at any means. And they can leave whenever they want to. That's literally in the contract. We're like, hey, give us notice, but they can leave. So showing that they have the ability to do whatever they want shows that we trust them to stay with us. So you have to give a little trust to get a little bit back. So I think that's a big part of it.
Is it always like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for us anyways.
Okay.
Can't guarantee any other labels.
And for anyone who is not familiar, DI stands for Devil Inside.
Devil
is that right?
Inside.
Okay.
But
Where'd that come from?
It actually came from a idea I had. Like, everyone has a bit of a devil inside them to deal with like problems and things. Like some mental, some people are drinkers. Like, they all have like a bit of a devil inside of them. And how you choose to deal with it is how you interact with the world. And we're choosing music to try to heal the devil inside of everyone. So that's kind of where it comes from.
Right, and that's part of your overall mission statement,
Yeah.
right? And you actively look for bands who kind of align with that mission.
Yes. Yeah. And like we'll come across great bands in that all the time, and sometimes their values just don't align with ours. They're looking for something else. Like there's a lot of bands I've come across that are looking for the big label break, and that's fine. You can look for that. Like, I'm not going to say anything against it. Like, that's the dream. Big major label, tour in the world. But for a lot of bands, that's not always going to be the case for them.
This is their outlet, right?
Yeah. And then there's bands that we find that don't necessarily want to do that. They're more than happy to do it. But they just want to make a positive impact with their music, even if it's just rocking out at a show. Because just getting to shed that excess stress from the day jobs, bills, just getting to get that out of your system and relax and have fun.
Well, is that stressful? I don't know.
Well, we all can't be like great like you, Kelly.
Oh, no. Not even close. I'll tell you what, music is my outlet. That's why, like, when I met Pat, I was like, oh, that's how we bonded, was talking about music. And I was like, hey, if you ever want anyone to go to a concert with, I'm your girl. Because anyone in my little circle, they kind of like concerts. And I was like, hey, I love it because I can't meditate. I cannot sit still long enough to meditate. My mind starts to go. But I can go for a walk. And even when I walk, though, like the nature, I need music when I walk. Anytime I'm ever meditating, it has to do with music. Like for me, I don't like to listen to podcasts in the car. I know a lot of people, that's their jam. And in the car, mine is music extremely loud to the point of everything shaking. But that's
called a good time.
I mean, that is really how I can relax, is listening to music as loud as I possibly can. And when I get out of my car, I feel better. So it's music that calms me. No matter how loud it is or how soft it is, that's what I need is music. So I can understand how other people playing it, I have no talent, but I like to listen. So I can understand
talents
that.
are the admin part of the job.
So you're the cool one.
Well, the bands make the cool music, but they're not necessarily good at paperwork. So that's what they get me for. Like, he can do all that stuff.
How did you fall into this? Where did it come from? I mean, really, how old were you when you really first started knowing this is what I want to do?
26.
Wow.
So about 8 years ago. Yeah, roughly. Maybe 25.
What was it that made you feel like you could take that jump? Because it's scary, right?
Record label wasn't the initial thought. Honestly, it was a number of factors, because I went through a lot of hard times myself. Like I've even been homeless, and music was always my source of comfort, and it brought me back from all that despair and crap you just deal with. And I was thinking, if it can do that for me, I know it does that for others. So I should dedicate to give back what it gave me. It gave me basically my life back and purpose. So I wanted to give that back to others.
That's beautiful.
So even if I only end up getting one more person to listen to one song that might make a difference in their life, then that's a well-accomplished goal.
Absolutely, yeah. Well,
obviously, the goal's a lot higher than that.
Right.
That's beautiful.
But it's a tough thing, right? To start a label, 2, to sign a band, and 3, to sign a band that anybody will care about, and start a label anybody will care about. So what was sort of the progression of ideas from I like music to
quality over quantity? So my purpose was to develop the brand first, so that even before we had a roster, we were known for a certain thing. You knew if you saw this logo, you're like, this meant quality. You go right over, like, I know we're going to get quality bands right here. So that's one of the things I focused on, was like the branding, to make sure it was, I still tweak it on a little occasion to make sure it keeps going in the direction I want it to. And that was just one of my major focuses, was how people saw it, so that they could always recognize it as like certain things. One, quality music. One, we're focused on mental health, suicide prevention, just helping everyone. And that we always try to help out whoever we can, whenever we can. Like, we can't do it all the time because we have to take care of our own too, and they come first. But we do try to help others, even if it's just making a post about a new band. So people know they can check out new bands like that we post about, and they know that our roster is a dedicated source of quality music.
So how is it that you're helping others with the suicide prevention and mental health? What all are you doing? Is it something with the community? Are you reaching out to the community with that?
Yes, we actually partnered with a company called Backline. What they do, they focus on creating plans for musicians and their families for mental health. And it's a nonprofit, so they only work with the budget that you have. They don't just go, oh, well, here's a bunch of expensive places to check out. No, and they also understand that a psychiatrist isn't always what you need. So they have like yoga instructors, different teachers. They have a whole list of range, and they talk to the people and they work out a case plan with what they've got and what's going to work best for them. And then one of my artists in particular, Carrie Brum, she's the lead singer of a metalcore band Bogrot out of Massachusetts. She actually does charity events for them where raise money and donate it to Backline to help continue helping musicians.
That's great.
And what is sort of the span of services? Is it mental health, addiction, suicide prevention?
Honestly, I think you just hit the nail on the head.
There we go. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, the point is, what I like is they don't just help the musicians, they help their families too, because it's not just the musician who's impacted by it, it's everyone around them, their families.
Sure. Now, is there anything that's going on in the Pittsburgh area that we can send people to?
Currently, no.
Okay.
But we are ramping up some things. Like, we're now adding a booking wing. It's been a long time coming, but I've cleared a lot of space, and I'm going to be working on that moving forward, getting all of our contacts organized. And we're currently looking for booking agents and a director. So I need the director to oversee them. But we're going to get that together, and then, because a lot of bands have been wanting to tour, travel, and more importantly, I've had many requests from multiple of them to wanting to do an all-DI show or festival.
Nice.
Yeah, they all want to like play together.
Okay.
Because that's one thing I try to do. I foster a community among them so that they're all communicating. Like, if one band needs one thing, I know another band might have the contact or the ability to help them in that aspect. They've been trading shows, so I'm trying to foster community with them, so it's not just like all dependent on like one person and the label. We're all together. We're all friends.
Collaboration is the way to go. I always say that. I mean, that's the easiest way to build everything, especially in Pittsburgh. I mean, everything crosses over, and it's worked so well for us with everything that we do.
What are your favorite places in Pittsburgh to take in new music?
Take in new music. Honestly, I usually like smalls, like the Fun House, because the Fun House in particular will have like some really cool shows and mostly like unsigned bands. I've gone there. The Thunderbird is nice, but I haven't gone to them very often. Definitely went to smalls way more. I used to go to the Smiling Moose once upon a time. And then the Rex I used to go to. There's a couple venues that have shut down that I used to go to more often for things.
Right. And so I guess for people that don't know, Mr. Small's in Millvale, right?
Yeah.
And then the Thunderbird in Lawrence. Is it Lawrenceville or is it Strip? Okay. And then Rex is in Southside. And then what was the other one?
Smiling Moose, Southside.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because Smiling Moose was pure metal for the most part.
Gotcha.
Hard rock metal.
They're both on Carson. Well, were.
Yeah. Awesome.
What was the last big show that you went to?
Oh, God. I feel I haven't been to a show in so long, it's starting to depress me. I've just been so busy working on things. I do know what my next one is.
Okay, what's that?
It's going to be Hailstorm in July. they're a big name now, but that wasn't all the case. I actually found them when they were a smaller regional act, like just going through a couple states. And I've been following them ever since. I was there when they got signed to Atlantic. I was actually on their street team, too.
Oh, very cool.
I actually wonder if this is how long ago this was. I won their first MySpace street team
Oh
event.
my gosh.
Yeah, that is dating yourself on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how long I've been following them. MySpace was relevant.
That's wild. I do want to get back to this. I'm talking about bigger shows. What is the possibility of having a live DI show? Because I know you've got bands from all over the place, so there's some logistics involved in getting.
We've had multiple bands play together, like from DI already. Like there's been shows where 2 or 3 were playing.
Do you think it's possible to get your whole roster in one place?
No.
That was a pretty quick answer.
Well, let's see here. I got a band in Georgia, Russia, UK,
Okay, so those ones we
They're
get.
spread.
Mexico.
How many do you have in the Pittsburgh area?
I think it's about 7 to 10. I lost count a little while ago.
That I mean, that's a good number because you launched with 9 bands, I think, right? When you started the label.
Yeah, and actually, I lost one immediately to Universal Records.
Oh wow.
At least you know I got an eye for talent.
Yeah.
You're like, gosh darn it, those rich people.
All right, so those 7 to 10, what are the chances of those?
Very high. Actually, multiple of them have played together already, too.
What kind of venue would you want to have for that?
That's a tricky spot because we've had venues shutting down. Like originally, I would have picked the Rex because they were kind of known for having bigger shows like that, and they had a good space. So that would have been a good one. But that's no longer the case. So next, I was thinking maybe Funhouse, but it's not exactly. It's very tight for bands. So that would be something I'd focus on is like making sure they have room to really show what they can do on a stage. I like to show them off. And then I was thinking maybe Spirit, though.
Oh, that would be perfect.
Yeah, Spirit's not too bad. Has good space.
Yeah.
And it's right. What is that? Right near Lawrenceville, or is
That's in like the heart of Lawrenceville, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the one on the strip?
No, that's Lawrenceville technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's over there, I think, near the Rite Aid down around the corner from there.
Yeah, it's been a while since I checked. I think I've been there once, but I still remember because it was a good show. And it had good space. That's why I remember. Like I remembered really good aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, it's not a gorgeous space, but it's a great space because it's just there's so much room there, and you can pack in a good crowd there.
And to be honest, like some of the best places you will ever visit to have a show aren't always the prettiest.
No.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the vibe that you get there, right? And it's the environment, the energy you get in the room.
Like even when you think about like times with loved ones back in the day, it wasn't like you were on this grand adventure. You're just like sitting on the floor watching TV, eating like some terrible food. It wasn't just like this great extravagant experience. It was about the time and the people that you spend it with.
Right.
Yeah. That's life, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the memories you make along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's more important who you're with than what's going on around you.
Absolutely.
So when you were growing up, let's say, like middle school, junior high, for me, that's when I started to really get influenced by music and understood what it really meant. Who were your influences when you were that age?
You picked a fun subject because that's when I started researching music. And it wasn't like I was researching mainstream. I started in literally 1900. And I started going through every decade.
Okay, that's not the answer I was expecting.
Exactly.
I'm so interested now. Go ahead.
So I was listening to the most popular music of every single decade.
When you were in junior high, you had that.
Yeah. And I didn't just do like the top 200 songs. I did the top 200 artists.
Wow.
So when I jokingly say to people sometimes I've forgotten more music than most people will ever know, it's not exactly a lie. Because I don't remember all of them. It's a lot to retain, especially if not all of them were like your favorite or you didn't like. It's not that they were bad. It was just like, you just didn't connect with it emotionally.
Right.
So you don't remember it. But that's how I was. It got really fun in the 70s and 80s, obviously.
I bet, yeah.
So first of all, what was the worst decade? Which one made you groan the worst?
Probably the 30s and 40s. I did have a problem with the Roaring 20s because it was a lot of jazz and stuff. Like, it was a lot of fun, like a lot of energy in there. And then the soda pop of like the 50s and 60s, like that was fun too in its own, because it reminded me of my mom because she loves listening to that stuff. So like you have good memories, like depending. So I would say more like 30s and 40s. Would not necessarily bad, just not as much connection to the music.
And were you keeping notes as like a kid on what you were listening to and sort of how the music was evolving?
I just remembered.
Wow, that's hard. That's a lot of music.
There's no way I could do that.
Yeah, I remembered most of it, and I knew where I was, knew where I needed to keep going.
How does that sort of background influence you today? I mean, because you had such a wonderful framework for how music has evolved. How do you sort of apply that at DI Records?
Well, it's things do evolve, but they also come back too at the exact same time. So while it's evolving, something that was old has evolved into something new at a further point. So there's trends in history if you just keep observing it.
I mean, I feel that way about my closet.
Yeah, see?
That's why I don't get rid of some of my stuff, because I'm like, it'll come back in style.
You back on your high school collection right now?
Yeah. I mean, bodysuits are back.
Exactly.
You know, that was like when I was in junior high, but I had bodysuits and stirrups.
Yes, bell bottoms came back years ago.
Yeah, right.
It all comes back around.
Yeah, it's just how we are. Everybody finds inspiration from things in the past, and they revamp it to the new.
I mean, look at movies.
Like, didn't Kanye do a remix of the Backstreet Boys, and everyone thought Kanye was the original on it?
I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of Backstreet or listen to a lot of Backstreet Boys.
I just saw something about it the other day. I'm like, no? Have you not heard of the Backstreet Boys? So that's what I mean. Like, it comes back around. It's just revamped into something new by a newer artist. And not everyone knows that it's a cover. You remember when you were as a kid, you're listening to something and your parents are like, oh, yeah, so-and-so did that song. You're like, who?
Right.
So it's the same thing. They just change how it sounds as it goes on.
My kids were like that, too. They were like, oh, my gosh, there's this new whatever. And I'm like, no.
Right.
That's so cute. No, that's not new.
Well, you have kids today who will like see a Nirvana shirt and think that's a brand. Or like even like Metallica.
Yeah.
Sometimes they think Metallica is a brand instead of a band.
Well, when you're going through Target and you're seeing, I'm like, how is Target carrying this kind of stuff? And I'm like, oh, it's like, oh, I don't like that.
It actually reminded me of the last. Actually, I think I just remembered the show that you wanted me to answer. I think the last big one I actually went to was Hailstorm.
Oh,
Okay.
I haven't missed them in 16 years. So I'm not going to start.
Wow.
But I remember leaving after the show, the concert, and I just hear people talking and go, yeah, Hailstorm's really blown up lately. Like, once Evanescence toured with them, like, really gave them a handout. And I'm like, you do know they've toured around the world before Evanescence, right?
Clearly not.
Yeah. So it's just like people's perception. They only see certain things because of certain.
right.
But it all comes back around, too.
Yeah. All right. So seriously, though, I don't think you answered the junior high question. What band really influenced you the most back then?
Actually, that was around the time, not a couple of years later, I found Hailstorm. That was my first, like, real band love, to be fair. I found a lot of connection to metal.
Okay.
So once I got into 80s, like, I could more research individual genres. And I absolutely fell in love with rock and metal.
Okay.
So I would say the entire genre.
The entire one.
Yeah, whereas like my first CD, my brother got me.
Okay.
It was the greatest hits of the Aussie years of Black Sabbath.
Nice.
And I wore that thing out.
That's a good one.
He also got me a Perfect Circle, and there was something else I don't remember. So obviously not that one.
What was it about, rock and metal that drew you in?
It was the way that they would tell the stories, because they would talk about things that would address like maybe mental health or scenario that someone's going through. Every music does it in its own way. But the way rock and metal did resonated with me because they tried to make it into more of an epic tale. So like you're fighting your demons, you're there like in equipment ready to take it on. Like rock and metal is more like you have the power to fight back against it. You're not just like falling into it. So I think that's what resonated with me, was more the power to take control of the demons rather than just letting them take control of you.
I love that.
Yeah, right?
That's awesome.
It's very interesting. Oh, my goodness. Well, I tell you what, I was reading this, and I loved this statement that you had on the website. It said, whether you're an emerging talent or an established act, we're here to help you elevate your craft and connect. I mean, that was such a powerful statement, and it really, for me, I have a networking organization, but it's so much more than that because we're really all about nonprofits and charitable acts and helping everybody that we come in contact with. And it's Pittsburgh's elevated and emerging leaders. And one of our men's luncheons is Connect and Collaborate.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going through everything that you had in there. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. It's symbiotic of everything that you had in there. And I thought, my gosh, for a record label, you guys are so much more than that. As I'm going through your mission statement, everything else that you had on your website, the fact that it's, music background, of course, but that you're doing so much for mental health and you're just giving back to the community and trying to give back to everyone that you come in contact with too. I thought, my gosh, that's not a lot of companies are doing that the way that you are. It's absolutely incredible what you guys do. I mean, do you get a lot of PR for that? Are you helping others in a way that it's coming back and people know how to get in touch with you? And besides just the bands that you're working with, I mean, are you getting a lot of people that can help you?
I'm still like shocked sometimes when people are like, oh, that DI Records? I'm like, what? But I think a good way to answer is we're looking for the booking agents, like I mentioned. One of them submitted because his band was one of our unsigned bands of the day. So he was aware of us, and he loved what we wrote and about the band. And he says that he actually put in there that he wasn't concerned about like making it rich. He just wanted to make a positive impact, and he wanted to be part of what we did at DI. Because it wasn't just about one thing, it was about helping.
Right.
Rather than just making money and being rich.
Right.
While we would love to make money and be rich, that'd be fantastic, but it's more about making a difference. And we don't do a lot of PR on it, honestly. It's just who we are. Like, Kelly, do you put out PR for, like, being a delight all the time? No, you just are.
Thank you.
But you don't do a mission statement about, like, you being a wonderful person all the time because it sounds a little conceited.
Right.
So if we start doing PR about that, it would sound a little conceited.
Well, but you guys are really giving back to the community and helping so many people. Is there a way for us to be able to help you? How do we help you? What are your needs?
I got 20 mil.
Not on me.
All right. Honestly, just spreading the word's good for me. Because that's all we really ask for is anyone, like, if you think this might be of interest to someone or might help someone, just spread the word.
Well, I think a huge concert with everybody from Pittsburgh that he has signed would be a great way to do that.
Blast.
Well, I'm getting the booking agents.
What?
I've had interest about it numerous times. Like, I've had numerous comments about, like, hey, when are you going to get new merch? And I'm like, all right, I'll just make a little threadless store if you guys want stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think having a huge concert like that and giving back to the organizations that are helping him with the mental health issues and having a big charitable concert.
I know someone who could do it, though, because he's actually one of the artists on the label, and he has been doing, like, shows on occasion. He doesn't do it often. But recently he did do one with a couple of DI bands. It was with actually three of them, him, Dematis, and one of our newest acts from Erie, Eden on Fire. So he could do it.
Planting that seed, I think that would be a good idea. Yeah.
So we've talked about sort of your mission statement. We've talked about bands being good, but how, if a band's interested in joining DI, interested in checking you out, how do they know if they're potentially a good fit? What else are you looking for in a band or an artist?
People who care. And when I say that, I don't mean like they care about just things in general. Like you see it in the way they talk. Like they take care in how they speak to others. They can be the roughest sort, but like a Common Crown, they're classic style like hard rock band, and they're like the old school, like just go out, play a great show, and just have fun, drink, like some like people would consider that a rough sort of people, but Jen and Steve, they actually run a bar, and which helps, and they dedicate it to veterans, and they do help veterans in that. So,
do you want to say what bar it is? Can you?
Heroes Bar and Grill, Kittanning.
Okay. We always want to support veterans and people that are helping them. So
yeah, but you wouldn't expect that necessarily. Like you wouldn't expect them to be running a bar and help veterans in that because of like some sort of perception that someone has about them. But they're wonderful people. They love music. You just gotta. Not everyone's going to be spit and polish.
Never judge a book, right?
Right. I have a friend who says, rock and especially metal is like the haven for like all of the losers, and so like we all know what it's like to be outcasted, and that's like kind of our safe place, right? And so a lot of people who look the roughest in that scene really just are the most likely to give you a hug if you ask for one, because they know what it's like to be beaten down or to be lost, or Yeah, so definitely, don't judge a book by its cover. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, great people. Then they also play a big charity event called Rock for Life, where they donate funds to help a kid each time, or a charity. Like they're always doing something to help people.
Does that happen here or in Kittanning?
They lost where they could have it a couple of years ago, so I think it switches in different spots now. So I can't say for certain where the next one is.
Okay. Well, if we find out, we'll put it out there.
Okay.
We'll help support that. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Always trying to help that kind of stuff. But that's I've found in my life that some of the prettiest people are the ugliest people. And some of the people that you wouldn't think so much of, or they get a bad rap, are the kindest people in the world. So we always say anywhere I go, I'm like, absolutely no judgment. And some people are like, oh, yeah. I'm like, no. There's really no judgment whenever it comes to some of the stuff that we're doing and places that we go. You really can't, and especially I think the pandemic changed that for a lot of
yeah.
There's so much going on, and life is too short to have any kind of ill will towards people, and you have to reach out, especially with the mental health crisis that our country has been in for so many years. After 2020, I think it got so much worse.
It did, because everything where people could keep their minds off things by actively doing things, that all got stopped. Mm-hmm. So it hit everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I hope that every time you see a need like you have been, you continue to fill that need. I think it's beautiful, and if we can support you in any way that we can, please let us know. We kind of have like a big crowd behind us that I'm sure would come to anything that you do and help support anything you do.
Yeah, I would love to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We like to end all of our podcasts with a little frostbite question, and we always have the co-host ask that. So hopefully Pat took a look and found something that he thinks that you'll like.
I'm going to ask a question that relates back to a conversation I was having yesterday with somebody. Can you provide us one frostbite of knowledge, that solid, undeniable truth that keeps you motivated even when things get tough?
Even when things get tough.
Maybe even especially when things get tough.
If you ever think about quitting, my advice is to think about all the people who've put their faith in you, who believe that you can do it no matter what, to push through, because all these people are not just like counting on you and like forcing you to do it, but because they believe you have the ability to overcome whatever it is you're facing. So just remember all those people who care about you, love you, and really believe that you can overcome and push through. So just remember all of them, and then you'll find whatever you're facing isn't so tough.
Great answer. I know, right? Perfect. Well, thank you guys for watching another episode of Frostbites. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Give us a like and a comment. This was an amazing episode. We hope you got a lot out of it. And we'll have some more information to follow so you can continue to support Dakota and everything that he is doing. Thanks, guys.